All things covered listeners, all things covered viewers, we have a special episode for you guys, and we know you will love it dearly because you love football. And we're talking football in this particular show. We have a treat for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans that are following the show. We have a treat for the Minnesota Viking fans that are following the show. We always have a treat for Skull Nation. So this is a very important opportunity for you guys to get some in-depth information regarding the national televised game this Thursday in Minnesota. The Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Minnesota to take on your beloved Vikings. But before we get to that matchup, I got to introduce my guest for this particular episode. He's the senior Steelers writer for The Athletic. He's been covering the Steelers since the early 2000s. You can follow him on Twitter at Mark Kaboly. Mark Kaboly is his name. Same for the Twitter name. Joining me here, Mr. Kaboly. Thank you for joining me. How you doing?
Pretty good. You know, if I've been covering the Steelers since the early 2000s, that means I must have covered you a little bit, huh?
No question. We definitely crossed paths quite a few times in the locker room. You've done a phenomenal job then. You were doing a phenomenal job then, and you're currently still doing an outstanding job. I know you kind of on injured reserve. You had a Kevin Durant-like injury, Achilles injury, but you still able to give us some nuggets about what's going on. So I'm happy you're here with me. Let's get to the nitty-gritty.
I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you any crossover or step back three or anything, but I might be able to provide you some information. You know, with KD's injury and mine are very similar. I feel his pain from what was a year or two ago, so I think I can work my way through it.
Yeah, I've heard the Achilles injury is a tough injury. It can be a bit painful, so I don't wish that on anybody.
I agree.
I don't wish that on anybody. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Some of the most recent national news coming from Pittsburgh was, I think Saturday night, it came out that Big Ben informed a few teammates that this would be his last year. What has the response been around the organization regarding the news that this is likely Big Ben's last year?
Yeah, I don't think it's that much of a surprise, to be honest with you. That's like saying the sun's coming up tomorrow and the Steelers are playing the Vikings on Thursday. When you're 39 years old, soon to be 40-year-old quarterback on an expiring contract where you become a free agent come 3 days after the Super Bowl, and your team's not really a team that's a Super Bowl caliber team, you tend to move on like that. And you saw, I mean, there's nothing official yet. He's not going to make anything official. He could, I guess, still change his mind to a degree. But when you see how he reacts after Cleveland game, he's just soaking it in. You see how he reacts after the Baltimore win, just, realizing that, hey, this very well could be the last, go around against one of the best rivals of all time. You know he's more than contemplating it unless something absolutely crazy happens, like he throws for like 500 yards and they go into losing a Super Bowl. It's pretty much been assumed that this is the path it was going to take once he signed that extension last year.
So question for you, and I'm right there with you. I think it's no surprise that this probably will be Seven's last year. But what's next for Pittsburgh? Like, where do they go to try to find the heir apparent to Big Ben?
That's a good question. I don't think it's on the roster. I mean, you might have a stopgap with Mason Rudolph, but if Mason Rudolph hasn't gotten it by year 4 or 5 now, I don't know if he's ever going to get it. Dwayne Haskins they have on the roster, and obviously he's talented, but they used him with some kid gloves here in the offseason, probably to make him, maybe more comfortable, more likely to give Rudolph a shot next year in training camp. That's a potential. I mean, Haskins was pretty decent, but I think he needed a year of seasoning under the Steelers' way, so to speak. I mean, there's always drafting. There's always free agency. Steelers got a ton of money that way as well. So, I mean, if you're holding my feet to the fire right now and say who's starting quarterback, September 10th next year, week 1, I would have to say Mason Rudolph right now. I don't think anybody's going to be very interested in any of those draft picks to be able to come in and play right away. So it's been an issue. It's been an issue for 4 or 5 years now. They've tried. They picked Josh Dobbs. They picked Landry Jones. They picked Mason Rudolph. They keep getting guys in, and it's just not a guy that can automatically take over. But you do have a Hall of Fame quarterback there. It's not easy. It's not an easy trend. I mean, there's teams that still don't have quarterbacks after 30, 40 years. Steelers went 20-some years without a franchise quarterback. So it's going to be a transition period for sure.
And because of some of the names you mentioned that potentially could be the starting quarterback, that has been an issue for Pittsburgh. A good issue, to say the least, is that they're never bad enough to be able to go get a potential franchise quarterback in the draft. They're always good enough that they're in the middle of the pack of the draft in the late teens, the 20s. But, you're trying to go get a difference maker. You got to be in the top 10, the top 5, top 6. And I don't see that happening for Pittsburgh. So this was something I thought about, and I mentioned this Sunday night on CBS HQ. If you're not good enough, if you won't be positioned high enough to go get a quarterback in the draft, and you're replacing the Hall of Famer with whoever that young guy is, then you might have to get, a little fancy via free agency and make things happen that might not be available right now. And I think a guy who would fit ideally in Pittsburgh, and I know people getting ready to say, well, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. No, I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers. This is an individual, I think this will be his last year with his current team, and he wants to get out. He emphasized that a year ago. What about Russell Wilson?
I don't think they would turn it down, put it that way.
Now, see, the thing is about the Russell Wilson ideal is this. I think they lost. He's still Russell Wilson, but his numbers won't say he's Russell Wilson this season, right? He missed a few ball games. They're tired. Their team is bad. So you're not getting the same Russell Wilson-like numbers that we've seen in years past, but he's still a top-level quarterback, in my opinion. I think he's still one of the elite quarterbacks in the National Football League. So the asking price might be anywhere between 2 first-rounders and maybe a third or fourth. If you look at where you are as an organization, if that was available for Pittsburgh, do you believe that would be something they would entertain?
I think they would definitely entertain it. I mean, we're talking about a guy, what was he, 32 maybe? It's
32,
like
maybe 33.
Yeah, he's not like Aaron Rodgers, 39 years old, and he can fall off a cliff in a year or two. I mean, if you want somebody like that, you can go get him and use him for 5, 6, 7 years. No so question. I think that's more plausible than say anybody else, other than maybe. I mean, you could step out of the box here if everything works out and entertain Deshaun Watson. That would be the perfect scenario. If he's cleared of everything and everything to do with that. I mean, you're looking at a solid quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years. But I don't know. They have the money. I mean, you never hear this about Pittsburgh, but they're actually going to have a ton of cap space this year. So they're going to be able to go out and spend it. It's whether or not they want to give up draft capital in order to get that. I don't know. I think that's wishful thinking. I think either one of those two would be great in my eyes. But I still think that they're going to get one of those mid-level guys. I don't want to, rip on anybody, call them mid-level or anything. But, the Garoppolos, the Bridgewaters, some of those guys, maybe to be able to fill a little bit of a gap here until maybe they do draft a guy or not. So, I mean, ultimately, it's always going to depend on this year, too. I mean, if you end up, 6-10-1, I mean, are you really worried about getting a franchise quarterback immediately? Are you that close to winning next year? They have to be pretty sure that they're going to have an opportunity to win it all next year before they would be able to risk some money like that. I mean, that's going to be the question we talk about from the day their season ends.
No question.
Until probably April or May, until they find somebody who can come in.
Yeah, and like you said, right now, you don't think the next starting quarterback is currently on the roster, but they might not have any other choice but to go with whoever it is on the roster if they're not able to make something happen via the draft.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Mason Rudolph next year. Even Haskins. I mean, Haskins has a shot. Yeah. But does that make you a playoff caliber team? Probably not.
Probably not. And especially in a division in the AFC North. It's not like how it used to be, Mark. The AFC North has really improved, and it's improved a lot because the quarterbacks have gotten better.
Yeah, they're all first rounders.
They're all first rounders
right now.
Exactly.
I mean, 3 of them are Heisman Trophy winners.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? Better than that, right? And they're all young.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so important for Pittsburgh to, if this is Big Ben's last year, you got to go ahead and try to stay within that pack, because if you don't, it's going to be a tough out just in the division alone.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to go that route, I believe.
Yeah, no question. Russell Wilson, Kevin Colbert, Mike T. Russell Wilson. Give up 2 first rounds in the third or fourth.
Does Russell want to come to Pittsburgh, though? Would that fit his lifestyle?
Oh no, his lifestyle is about winning and being a part of a sound structured organization. I know he's married to Sierra, but that's only a 45-minute flight to New York. Like you right there.
True. And that's probably one of the few direct flights from Pittsburgh you can get to New York. Other than that, forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you 45 minutes, a lot closer to the big Apple.
What am I talking about direct flights? He got like $100 million.
Yes, he's flying private. They're flying private, Mark. They're not doing commercial. They're flying private. He might have
his own plane.
Yeah, he might have his own plane. And with that Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson, I mean, so many different endorsements. You on the East Coast, and man, Mike Tomlin, I'm pretty sure he has a lot of respect for Mike T and vice versa. So I'm just throwing that out there. I think people were saying Aaron Rodgers, and I even thought about Aaron Rodgers. But I'm like, no, Russell might make more sense.
I lost you there for a second, but yeah, I mean, I don't think Mike. I don't know. I think it's a tough get to get Russell Wilson, but I would take him. I tell you that.
Yeah, we all. So let's get ready for this highlight this upcoming game Thursday night. The Minnesota Vikings, I mean, it's been a very, very up and down year, more down than up for the Minnesota Vikings. They've had a habit of playing up or down to the level of their competition. But are these two teams pretty evenly matched based on your analysis and what you've seen from both teams?
I mean, it's tough with the Vikings because they just seem to find a way to lose games, right?
Yeah.
And the Steelers have found that, there was a streak in the middle of the season where they found a way to win 3 or 4 games. But they're very similar. I mean, Steelers defense have been banged up. That's been the issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, at one point, BMac, during Sunday's game, the Ravens had the ball inside the 20-yard line in a key situation. And 5 of their front 7 you probably never heard of before. I'm talking about Adams, Mondo, Loudermilk, Tuska, and Taco Charlton. I mean, these are guys that weren't even on the roster at the beginning of the season, and now they're asking them to play in key situations when some guys need some blows here. So that's been the biggest issue. They've been really, really struggling defensively because of the injuries, and offensively, it's the offensive line as well. So it's very similar. I mean, they both got good running backs, veteran quarterbacks. So it should be one of those games that who screws up at the end is going to lose. And that seems to, happen to Minnesota a lot lately, but it's not happened. I mean, it's happened to Steelers as well, though.
Yeah, but more so with the Vikings than the Steelers. The Vikings have found every way, every way that's out there to lose. They found a way to lose. So we got to see how this drama game. This is going to be a drama-free game. You better believe it will be some drama involved based on what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers don't win. If the Steelers play a game, other than maybe that Bengals game, it's usually a 1-possession game or less.
Yep.
I mean, all their wins have been within 4 or 5 points. They got blown out by the Bengals, but typically you don't see games get out of control too much. They play a lot close to the vest, and they're just not talented enough to pull away from many teams as well. So I would imagine it being a 4th quarter game on Thursday.
So, Mark, what's the identity of this Steelers offense, and how can they attack the Vikings defense?
Oh, they would love to come out and just run the ball at them. Run physical style football. I mean, that's all we heard about from February on last year of how they want to be a physical, knock your socks off type of offensive line. They got rid of, 4 of the 5 are new. Offensive coordinators new. The offensive line coach has this mean streak attitude that he wants to teach how to block. None of this passive stuff, but it just hasn't worked. I mean, they got a new running back in Najee, who's is a pretty significant power type of guy. But to be honest with you, it just hasn't worked consistently enough. So you saw what they did last week against the Ravens. I mean, they were their best in the second half, in the 4th quarter, when they got away from and I always do the Matt Canada quote offense when he does the motion stuff and some of the jet sweep stuff. They get away from that. They get him in the shotgun or the pistol and Roethlisberger, and let him run at some pace and throw the ball around. And they were very successful last year. They want to run the ball. They want to be balanced. If they had their druthers, they would want to do that. But this is a type of game that they're probably going to have to rely on the quarterback to make some plays again. This whole team is about this. How they want to play is they want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. They want the quarterback to make 6-7 throws if it's third down throws, red zone throws, touchdowns to keep chains moving, touchdowns, and rely on the defense. If they can do that, they can beat pretty much everybody. But they haven't been able to do that consistently. So I would imagine Roethlisberger comes out. They're going to condense the playbook because it's such a short week and go to a lot of stuff what they did last week, and maybe some pace, some hurry up stuff, and let the quarterback build off of what he did last week.
Yeah. And talking about the quarterbacks in this particular matchup, both quarterbacks have a lot of experience, but quarterbacks are only as good as the pass rush they're going against, right? And Viking fans have seen an elite light player rushing the passer in Danielle Hunter when he's been healthy. But man, the best professional pass rusher in the National Football League is TJ Watt. He's playing at a whole nother level. I highly doubt if he remains healthy, he bet not get snubbed from the Defensive Player of the Year award like a year ago when it went to Aaron Donald. But is there any way to slow him down?
It's tough. I mean, opposing teams have tried a little bit of everything. I mean, they've chipped in. They put the tight end over there. They're doing something where they put the tight end a couple yards off so he doesn't know if he's going to get chipped or not. They're sliding the line to that side, everything, but he just seems to find a way to get the quarterback. Not only get to the quarterback, but in key situations too. You look at a game earlier in the year against Seattle, the strip sack in overtime ends up winning it. The play he made on that 2-point conversion against Lamar Jackson, where he just made him alter the throw just enough that doesn't maybe show up in the stat book, but it's just unbelievable play that gave them the win. They're 0-3-1 when he's either not played or has been out or left during the game, and they're 6-2 with him in the game. So it tells you how much he means to them, and they need him to provide that type of pressure for the quarterback. I mean, he has to, because other than that, I mean, Alex Highsmith on the other side is replacing Bud Dupree. He's a good run stuffer. He hasn't really got that pass rushing game down to perfection quite yet. Cam Hayward's a beast.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're not going to get much pressure from anybody else. So it's TJ. He knows he has to come. They're allowing him to blitz more or at least not read at the line of scrimmage. And he's been, I mean, we're at 16 sacks right now and
missed 2 ball games.
2.5 games. He's on pace for about 23. He's averaging 1.6 sacks per game. When you add that up over the entire season, it's something like 27. That's a little bit more than Michael Strahan's 22.5. So he's having that type of year.
And he had 3.5 Sunday, didn't practice 1 snap.
He didn't even know he was playing until Saturday. He had to stay at home, and to stay in shape, he pulled his cleats out and ran around his backyard and was running around evergreen trees and stuff. And then on Saturday, they're like, "You're clear," and they're like, "Okay." Played 62 snaps, career high 3.5 sacks. He needs another half sack to pass your former teammate as the most sacks in a single season, James Harrison.
Yeah.
Only a half more.
Man, he's what I call a professional sack getter. He was born to get sacks.
His past 5 years, 65.5 sacks in 5 years. Nobody in the league can say they have more than that. So he's talented. He's fast. He's quick. He's smart. He studies. Linemen like crazy. He's obsessed over studying how to be able to get to the quarterback, where the flaws are. You can see it when he's out there.
Yeah, no doubt. And on the flip side, for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, the Minnesota Vikings got an up and coming. Not an up and coming. He's here. He's already made it known. I'm here and I'm here to stay. Big time playmaker at the wide receiver position in Justin Jefferson. The likelihood of Adam Thielen playing is not likely. So clearly Justin will see a lot of targets. But how do the Steelers plan to slow down Justin Jefferson?
You see, it didn't really bother him last week when Thielen went out, right? When he had 11, 12 catches, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to. It's tough because I don't think Joe Hayden's going to play. It's too short of a week. He's been out a month now with that foot. So that's what normally they would put on him. You have to be very careful. You're going to have to put some attention on him more than just if it's Ahkello Witherspoon, who got the first start of his Steeler career last year, or Cam Sutton. You're going to have some help. If it's high-low, whatever it is, that safety, if it's Minka, if it's Edmonds, I'm guessing it would be Minka more than anybody, has to somehow, because the one way you get beat in the NFL, and you know this, BMac, is you give up big plays. That's how you lose in the NFL. You give up the big plays. And the Steelers have been pretty good at that for the most part, of not letting somebody get over top of him. So the first they worry about stopping the run, because they're not very good at that. And if they're doing that, then they're going to have to focus a lot of attention on Jefferson. But I don't think they have anybody that can just match up with him. They're going to have to scheme something for him.
Okay. Last question I got for you. I can't let you leave without giving us a score prediction. What's your score prediction for Thursday night, Pittsburgh versus Minnesota?
I really haven't given it much thought yet. I did pick it right last week. I thought they'd beat the Ravens. This short week scares the living crap out of me if you're a Steelers fan. I think they're going to find a way to lose this time. I think the Steelers go up there and lose to the Vikings 23-20.
Wow. 23-20. I think that would clearly, what's the I have the over under is 45. So 23-20, the under would hit.
Don't hold me to that number exactly now.
And it would be a push, because the Steelers are getting 3 points right now.
And BMac, you predicted 23-21.
Yeah,
Steelers.
I predicted.
So you guys are very close, just on opposite sides.
Yeah, on the podcast, I predicted 23-21.
Because you have to pick the Steelers, right?
No, well, I've been picking the opposing team against the Vikings every week on that podcast, because when I started picking against the Vikings, they started to win. So the fans were saying I should keep doing that.
So the Viking fans are on your butt. No, the Steelers fans would be on your butt if you pick them to lose. You're in a no-win situation. Fans just hate me, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. You embrace it, so it's okay. Well, Mark, man, it's a pleasure having you join me here. All Things Covered, this bonus special episode, getting ready for Thursday night football. The Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to the Minnesota Vikings. A very, very important game for both teams. Playoff implications are clearly significant for both ball clubs. So this is a huge game. I mean, a huge game. The Vikings can't afford to lose anymore if they're trying to get into the postseason. And it's a very, very sticky race in the AFC for those wild card spots as well. But thanks again, Mark, for joining me. Definitely, you can find Mark on Twitter at Mark Kaboly, one of the best beat writers for the Steelers. He covered the Steelers. He's a writer for The Athletic in Pittsburgh. Mark, you've been doing it for a long time, man. They've been keeping you around for a long time because they love what you do. So, man, you keep doing what you're doing, giving us some sound insight for this upcoming Thursday night game. Steeler fans, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and the same can be said for the Minnesota Viking fans. Thank you, Mark. Be safe. Make sure you get home. As you guys see, Mark had to pull over to take care of this interview for us, so we definitely appreciate him for his hard work and dedication.